This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, July 25th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Joe Biden says there's a time for newer, fresher, and younger voices as he drops out of the presidential race. I'm Steve Futterman.
Benjamin Netanyahu has defended the Gaza war in a scathing speech to Congress.
Thank you, America.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Police deployed pepper spray on a large crowd protesting Israel's war in Gaza. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Trump wastes no time going after Harris.
Kamala threw open our borders.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off their worst sell-off in about a year and a half. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A fake protest on a real college campus being filmed for a TV show in New York is met with real protesters. Julie Walker, New York.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Joe Biden addressed the nation from the White House Oval Office, telling the American people why he dropped out of the 2024 election, saying he wanted to pass the torch to a new generation. Steve Futterman has the story.
I'm speaking to you tonight from behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office.
For 11 minutes, Joe Biden spoke to the American people about what he believes are the accomplishments of his administration and the threats America faces. But the primary reason for this speech was to explain why he isn't seeking re-election.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president all merited a second term, but nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition.
Now, he said, is the right time to pass the torch, and he briefly acknowledged his age.
You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
He never mentioned Donald Trump by name, but he was clearly referring to the former president as he talked about the choice Americans face in November.
The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. So let's act together, preserve our democracy.
Biden ended the speech reflecting on his own journey.
My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, one day sit behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am.
During the upcoming months, Biden is expected to be on the campaign trail as he tries to make the case for Kamala Harris. I'm Steve Futterman reporting.
Despite protests outside the Capitol where demonstrators burned American flags and denounced his visit to Washington, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defended the Gaza war in a detailed speech to members of Congress. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together. Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defended the Gaza war in a scathing speech to Congress.
I came here today to say, thank you, America.
Netanyahu's remarks to a joint meeting of Congress were at times conciliatory, at times aimed at boosting U.S. support for the war.
I thank President Biden for his heartfelt support for Israel. After the savage attack on October 7th, he rightly called Hamas sheer evil. He dispatched 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East to deter a wider war. And he came to Israel to stand with us during our darkest hour, a visit that will never be forgotten. America and Israel must stand together.
And defiant, saying if Hamas does not surrender, Israel will keep fighting until the militants are destroyed.
Israel will fight until we destroy Hamas's military capabilities, end its rule in Gaza, and bring all our hostages home. That's what total victory means, and we will settle for nothing less.
He spoke amid Democrat boycotts inside the House chamber and protests outside.
Free
Thousands of protesters descended on Washington. Police deployed pepper spray on some marching toward the Capitol, where Netanyahu said they should be ashamed for standing with Israel's enemies.
You have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, Trump admonishes Harris in rally speech. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. It's been an active week of showers and thunderstorms. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The most widespread coverage of severe thunderstorms later today is expected for parts of the mid-Atlantic as an impactful cold front approaches the coastline, with localized strong wind gusts and even some areas of flash flooding possible from the Philadelphia area southward through the nation's capital into Virginia this afternoon and evening. A more general shower and thunderstorm risk covers most of the rest of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley today as well, but the most active weather is likely to stay closer to the coast. By contrast, areas from the interior Northeast into the Great Lakes region have generally dry weather in their future for today, with lower humidity for the most part, along with a good deal of sunshine under high pressure, but intense triple-digit heat pushes eastward into the western Dakotas today. In the south, rich Gulf of Mexico moisture and a front that continues to linger will support the continuation of an active pattern, with numerous showers and thunderstorms expected, any of which can squeeze out heavy rainfall from Virginia south and west to southeast Texas. Some storms can be locally severe with gusty winds, but the main threat will be flooding rainfall, perhaps of 4 to 8 inches in some spots through Saturday, despite this rain proving largely beneficial in terms of drought relief. For the western states, some relief from the heat arrives in the interior Northwest behind a much-needed cold front, with highs near 100 on Wednesday in some parts of Washington state, to be replaced by 80s for many. However, thick smoke from wildfires will continue to be a concern in parts of the north today. Farther to the south, another day of monsoon thunderstorm activity can be expected for the southwest. In Billings, Montana, watch for a gusty afternoon thunderstorm with a high reaching 101 degrees. For Detroit, a sunny and nice Thursday is in store with a high of 79. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. From waving Hamas banners on Washington, D.C. streets, defacing statues, and tearing down and burning American flags, police in the nation's capital had to deal with sometimes violent anti-Israel protesters outside the U.S. Capitol during Benjamin Netanyahu's visit. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
Police deployed pepper spray on a large crowd protesting Israel's war in Gaza that marched towards the U.S. Capitol. That's where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking to Congress. Thousands of protesters descended on Washington, chanting, "Free, free Palestine!" Some tried to block streets ahead of Netanyahu's speech. Police wearing gas masks blocked the crowd, which was calling for an end to the war that has killed more than 39,000 Palestinians from getting closer to the Capitol. U.S. Capitol Police said in a post on social media that some members of the crowd had become violent and failed to obey with orders to move back from the police line. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Former President Donald Trump held a campaign rally last night in North Carolina. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports it was the first Trump rally since President Biden bowed out of the race and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris.
The former president told a crowd in Charlotte that there's talk he became nice after he was shot at a Pennsylvania rally this month. He encouraged the country to unify in the wake of the assassination attempt, but asked the North Carolina rally if he could not be nice.
She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country. If she ever gets the chance to get into office, we're not going to let that happen.
He went after the presumptive Democratic nominee.
She's absolutely terrible. She's, as you know, more liberal than Bernie Sanders. Can you believe it?
Trump had examples. He pointed to inflation.
As vice president, she cast the tie-breaking votes that created the worst inflation in a half a century, decimating middle-class families.
He mentioned abortion.
My position is 8 points higher in the polls, and that's because she is so radical.
And Trump hammered Vice President Kamala Harris over the southern border.
Borders are Kamala threw open our borders and allowed 20 million illegal aliens to stampede into our country.
It's a scenario the Trump campaign has said it's been considering for months, an open Democratic convention with momentum surrounding the vice president. That's where we are, and Trump honing in on his potential opponent in November. I'm Clayton Neville.
Markets upended, stocks take a big hit on Wall Street. That in business when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after stocks plunged yesterday. The S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ had their worst days since December of 2022. Investors disappointed with tech earnings. The Dow fell 500 points. The NASDAQ down 650 yesterday.
This is really kind of normal, believe it or not. Mid-July is when the market traditionally has a tough time. The summer roughness all the way through October, so it's sort of on cue.
CNBC's Bob Pisani. Ford shares fell in after-hours trading last night on disappointing quarterly results, but shares of Chipotle and IBM were each higher after hours on quarterly results. Tesla tanked 12% yesterday on disappointing results. Its profit plunged 45%. Some investors are worried that CEO Elon Musk's public statements about things other than his businesses have tainted the brand.
You have to wonder whether his political tilt is impacting in some way. Sometimes I do wonder on the sales front.
CNBC's David Faber. Mortgage demand at a 5-month low now. Rates still seen as high in the 6.8% range for a 30-year fixed home loan. Sales of newly built homes came in below expectations for last month.
In June, we saw the average rate on the 30-year fix over 7% for the entire month. So it was a miss, but it's not completely unexpected that you would see that as buyers pull back due to affordability. I'm hearing from various analysts that people may be waiting until the fall to see if mortgage rates come down. To get buyers in the door, you have to see a 5 handle on the 30-year fix. We don't have that yet.
CNBC's Diana Olick.
Most of us have heard that profits at restaurants are down. Numbers that can be measured with the French fry indicator.
Yeah, the French fry indicator is Lamb Weston, a company that makes French fries. It had a disappointing quarter, said the restaurant business overall is slowing. Lamb Weston lost a quarter of its value on Wednesday, and that set a bunch of restaurant stocks lower.
Lamb Weston is really everybody. It's a great measurement. All restaurants, no matter if it's the high-end steakhouses or a Rainforest Cafe and a Bubba Gump, we all use French fries. And if they're down, the restaurant business is down. And what happened is exactly true. And the consumer was strong for so long, but we're just feeling it everywhere now.
Landry's CEO, Tillman Fertitta on CNBC. Landry's is also the parent of a number of steakhouse chains.
Having Mastro's, Martin's, Del Frisco's, Catch, Palm, the Strip House, that's the steak effect. We're feeling the steak effect right now, that people don't want to go out and spend $70, $80, $90 for a piece of meat.
On today's watch list, we get GDP numbers, durable goods orders. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. Earnings are coming today from American Airlines and Southwest.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with a look at Thursday business. Russian and Chinese aircraft too close for comfort. That when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning, and we're learning more about a close call in the skies near Alaska after NORAD detected Russian and Chinese military aircraft just outside of the 49th state's airspace. American fighter jets were dispatched and intercepted 4 bomber aircraft in international airspace, but the Chinese and 2 Russian planes never officially entered Canadian or U.S. territory, and they turned around without incident. A similar situation occurred last May when 4 Russian military aircraft strayed into Alaska's air defense zone, but they were intercepted by U.S. fighter jets and escorted away from the Alaskan coast. Well, here's something that can only happen in New York City. Correspondent Julie Walker reports on a TV shoot's fake protest on a college campus, sparking a real protest by anti-Israel demonstrators.
A fake protest on a real college campus being filmed for a TV show in New York is met with real protesters, pro-Palestinian activists, according to the New York Times, which says the CBS drama FBI Most Wanted was filming an episode involving a climate change protest, complete with tents on the school's lawn, similar to the real-life Gaza-related student protest movement. The paper says pro-Palestinian activists showed up on campus on Monday and Tuesday, calling the film shoot propaganda, and said the use of the campus was an attempt to demonize and profit from the student movement. The Times reports filming wrapped Tuesday as planned. Julie Walker, New York.
America in the Morning for Thursday, July 25th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The public has heard directly from President Biden about his decision to end his re-election bid. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivers a fiery speech before Congress. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The FBI director takes questions on the assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump. I'm Clayton Neville.
An escalator inside one of the terminals at JFK Airport in New York caught fire. I'm Sue Aller.
California, Washington, Oregon, all states where firefighters are busy combating several blazes. I'm Julie Walker.
The Facts of Life star Mindy Cohn says a series reboot is completely off the table. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Beginning in the south, AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has today's forecast.
There is no long-lasting relief expected for the south today as a robust flow of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, combined with a front that remains stalled over the region, means yet another day of widespread coverage for showers and some rumbles of thunder today. While it is not guaranteed that every location will end up beneath a thunderstorm, any of the rainfall can be heavy from coastal Texas into parts of southern Virginia, with the risk for both flash flooding and locally severe thunderstorms continuing into the weekend as some spots pick up to 48 inches of rain through Saturday, which will mean drought relief for many. A more organized zone of severe thunderstorms is expected to develop along an advancing cold front in portions of the Interstate 95 corridor later today, with damaging wind gusts and the risk for flash flooding from northern Virginia into southern New Jersey this afternoon and lasting into the evening. North of there, at least spotty coverage of showers and thunderstorms extends through New England, although the majority of this activity can be focused closer to the coast for the most part. Behind this cold front in the Great Lakes region and the interior Northeast, a much nicer day is in store instead, with lowering humidity and plenty of sunshine, along with highs in the 70s and some lower 80s. Farther to the west, another day of monsoon thunderstorms can be expected from the Four Corners states into Nevada and the Intermountain West, with a corridor of heavier thunderstorms that can bring a swath of very strong winds in central and eastern Montana for the afternoon and evening hours. The Northwest turns a bit less hot today as the heat shifts more toward the northern plains, with wildfire smoke remaining quite noticeable for many in terms of poor air quality across the region. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. For the first time, the public has heard directly from President Joe Biden about his decision to end his re-election bid. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think it's more important than any title.
And in a primetime Oval Office address,
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
calling it the best way to unite the nation. He says while there's a time and a place for long years of experience,
there's also a time and a place for new voices.
The president says that time is now, praising Vice President Kamala Harris, the presumptive Democratic nominee, as tough and capable. He says it's now up to voters to defend democracy.
The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. We just have to keep faith, keep the faith.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Before a full chamber of lawmakers, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a forceful speech to Congress, once again imploring the U.S. to strongly support their war against Hamas. John Stolnis has that story from Washington.
With more than 60 Democrats boycotting the speech, Netanyahu told lawmakers they meet at a crossroads of history.
Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Noting the anti-Semitic protests on American college campuses this spring, Netanyahu lashed out at those who have been protesting against Israel since the war in Gaza began.
When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
He also lauded some Israeli soldiers invited to the speech, as well as one of the hostages recovered from Hamas, Noah Argamani.
I think it's one of the most moving things. When Noah was reunited with her mother, Leora, and her mother's last wish came true. Noah, we're so thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you.
Netanyahu's visit came with controversy as thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters carrying signs saying "Stop arming Israel" were pepper sprayed by Capitol police officers as they marched toward the Capitol. Capitol Police officials say some in the crowd became violent and failed to obey orders to move back from the police line. Lawmakers in attendance protested too. Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, held up a small sign reading "War Criminal" during the Israeli leader's speech. But Netanyahu's supporters cheered loudly as he urged Congress to continue supporting their war effort against Hamas.
When we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose. And my friends, I came to assure you today of one thing. We will win.
And said he is ready to press forward until they achieve total victory against Hamas. Netanyahu thanked President Biden for standing with them after October 7th and also lavished praise on Donald Trump, quote, for all he's done for Israel. Netanyahu is scheduled to meet with Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House later today, then with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Friday. John Stolnis, Washington.
The director of the FBI answered questions from lawmakers during a hearing on Capitol Hill and provided new information on the assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle anxious to get to the bottom of how a gunman was able to fire from a rooftop at former President Trump's Butler, Pennsylvania rally, hitting Trump in the ear, killing a former fire chief, and injuring two others. Democratic Congressman Jerry Nadler.
But regardless of my strong feelings about Donald Trump's behavior, I unequivocally and unabashedly condemn with every fiber of my being the attempt against his life. This was not just an attack on a man, but an attack on our democracy.
Republican Congressman Jim Jordan with plenty of questions.
Why weren't all the buildings secured? There were a finite number of buildings that needed to be secured. Why wasn't that done? Why was the president allowed to walk out on the stage when there was a suspicious person on the property?
Director Wray said a motive still isn't clear.
We have tried to be transparent with both Congress and the American people as we're going along in the investigation, frankly, unusually so for an ongoing investigation, given the sheer nature of it.
Wray confirmed the shooter had recently taken an interest in public figures searching names like Trump and Biden online.
We did not have any information about the shooter. He was not in our holdings before the shooting.
The FBI director told the committee that other information is being learned from the shooter's history.
Analysis of a laptop that the investigation ties to the shooter reveals that on July 6th, he did a Google search for, quote, how far away was Oswald from Kennedy? And so that's a search that obviously is significant in terms of his state of mind. That is the same day that it appears that he registered for the Butler rally.
Wray said it's been learned that the shooter scouted out the property and was even spotted by police. He's said to have flown a drone just hundreds of yards from the rally stage hours before Trump spoke.
The drone was recovered in his vehicle. So at the time of the shooting, the drone was in his vehicle.
Wray insisted that we're living in an elevated threat environment. He said, tragically, the Butler County assassination attempt is another example of that. I'm Clayton Neville.
Stealing money from military children and families. Villain sentenced. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. On top of all the chaos air travelers are dealing with at the nation's airports following last week's massive computer outages, a fire inside a terminal at New York's Kennedy Airport made delays even worse, especially for American Airlines. Sue Aller reports from the Big Apple.
It happened Wednesday morning at JFK Airport in New York. Terminal 8 had to be evacuated after an escalator caught fire. 9 people were hurt, mostly with minor smoke inhalation. About 960 people had to exit the building until the New York City Fire Department gave the all clear. According to the FlightAware website, this caused delays and cancellations nationwide. This, of course, happened while many U.S. airlines are still dealing with delays from last week's CrowdStrike outage. American Airlines felt the brunt of the impact. Johnny St. Louis spoke to ABC 7 Eyewitness News. He was lucky. His flight was only delayed 2 hours.
All I was thinking about is getting home. That's all we were thinking about. We're tired. We want to get home.
Kristen Schaefer also spoke to ABC 7 Eyewitness News and said communication was an issue.
Would have just been told what time the flight was going to leave would have been okay. But the fact that it was just delayed and delayed and delayed and we couldn't leave the airport.
The exact cause of the fire is under investigation. In New York, I'm Sue Aller.
A woman has been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for stealing more than $100 million from a grant program meant to support military children and families. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
Janet Yamanaka Mello was sentenced to 15 years in prison for stealing nearly $109 million from a youth development program meant for children of military families. Mello was a civilian employee who worked as a financial manager for the U.S. Army, handling funding for a youth program at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. She created a fraudulent group and submitted numerous applications asking for federal grant money. Mello spent the money on herself to buy millions of dollars of real estate, over 1,500 pieces of jewelry, including a $923,000 jewelry purchase on one day back in 2022. She also bought 82 vehicles that included a Maserati, a Mercedes, a 1954 Corvette, and a Ferrari Fratelli motorcycle. The federal funds she spent were meant for the care of U.S. military children around the world. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Wildfires continue to destroy acres in several western states, and smoke from more out-of-control blazes in Canada is sending polluted air into the U.S. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Parts of I-84 in Oregon shut down after the Durkee fire was so intense it created its own weather pattern, according to National Weather Service meteorologist Josh Smith.
They've generated a lot of heat, which has helped them control their own
environment.
He says a heat wave is gripping the region.
At least 8 or 9 days of 100-degree temperatures or greater.
Triple-digit temperatures also making it difficult for firefighters in California.
Of course, we want to make early notifications as much as we can. We need to prioritize those folks and structures that we need to do as triage on, get those people out as soon as possible if we deem that it's necessary. We've initiated emergency alerting.
In Sierra, on the Nevada border, a series of lightning-sparked wildfires closing a state highway.
Firefighters have made progress on fire lines around the perimeter of the fire, but it's hard to keep open fires. At one point, 2 days ago, it grew 10,000 acres in like a half an hour.
And in Riverside, officials searching for whoever set off fireworks, causing a massive blaze there. I'm Julie Walker.
The second largest cryptocurrency in the world, Ethereum, is now available as an exchange-traded fund, but seems to remain flat despite over $1 billion traded in the first 48 hours. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
According to data from CoinGecko, Ethereum is trading at 3,445, down 0.5 point in the last 24 hours, which is surprising given the fact that Ethereum ETFs have been made legal and are currently trading. Cryptocurrency market reports say that Ethereum ETFs have traded more than $1 billion in overall volume in their first day. Of note is an interesting shift in the dynamics that say that Ethereum trading relative to Bitcoin rose from 22% to 41%, which suggests accelerated trading activity in the Ethereum markets. In addition, data from Bloomberg says U.S. spot Ethereum exchange-traded funds have only been trading for 1 day, but they're off to a solid start, with funds like Grayscale, BlackRock, and Bitwise Asset Management topping the list. And in a related story, luxury automaker Ferrari is set to begin accepting cryptocurrency payments for cars in Europe. Comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Thursday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball Wednesday, the Mets manhandled the Yankees 12-3 to sweep this year's Subway Series. They hit 5 home runs. Francisco Lindor with his second two-tater game this week.
This is more for the fans to talk, their bragging rights and stuff. The atmosphere was fantastic today and yesterday.
Padres pounded out 20 hits and steamrolled the Nationals 12-3. The Red Sox gave manager Alex Cora a 3-year extension, then got buried by the Rockies 20-7. 21 Colorado hits, 4 of them out of the park, including the first career grand slam for Brenton Doyle. Pirates blanked the Cardinals 5-0 behind the 6-hit pitching of Martin Perez and the Prados. Giants down the Dodgers 8-3. Robbie Wray made his debut for the G-Men. He was traded from Seattle after having Tommy John surgery last year. The lefty walked 2 batters and hit 2 more in the first inning, then set down the next 14 in a row, 5 no-hit innings with 8 strikeouts. Rangers routed the White Sox. Corey Seager had 4 hits, including a homer. Reds ripped the Braves 3 hits and 2 stolen bases for Ellie De La Cruz. That's 51 bags this year to lead the majors. Angels came back to sink the Mariners. Mike Trout's return from knee surgery lasted 2 innings on a rehab start in the minors. The knee started barking, so the comeback's on hold. Wins for the Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Marlins, Brewers, Twins, Astros, and Guardians. At the Paris Olympics, U.S. men's soccer, back in the games for the first time since 2008, lost to host France. The U.S. Rugby Sevens tied with France and lost to Fiji. Today, competition begins in archery, team handball, and women's soccer, with the U.S. taking on Zambia. That's Thursday Sports.
Robert Workman on sports. This 1980s sitcom reunion, not happening after all, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Swifties are now in Europe following Taylor Swift and her worldwide concert tour. As entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports, they're opening up an exhibit of Taylor Swift memorabilia in London.
But when you think Tim McGraw,
Victoria and Albert Museum in London is showcasing the Blue Heart cowboy boots and turquoise dress from when Taylor Swift was still an opening act, all the way to the dress she wore in the Fortnite video earlier this year. This is a different exhibit than the one from New York last year. Other items include the sweater from the Cardigan video, the yellow gown from the Bejeweled video, and the snake microphone from the Reputation tour.
The stage costumes from 1989, the costumes from Reputation tour, and instruments. It's wonderful to be able to show her musicality and her microphones.
Curator Kate Bailey says they'd love for Swift to see the exhibit because her presence is very much there.
In the space where we have the cardigan, it's like she's just left the cardigan on the chair. So she's very, very welcome, and we'd be delighted to welcome her.
The exhibit runs through September 8th.
The cowboy boots, customized by Taylor Swift, with Taylor Swift and number 13 on it. It feels amazing to have those from her early career.
I'm Archie Zaraletta.
If you were hoping for a Facts of Life reunion, you'll be disappointed. Kevin Carr reports one member of the once popular sitcom may have sunk the chance for the rest.
According to 80s teen star Mindy Cohn, a reunion show of her classic series, The Facts of Life, is definitely not happening.
It's dead. It's very dead.
The idea of a reboot has taken the good, the bad, and the ugly. Cohn, who played Natalie on the popular sitcom, was a recent guest on SiriusXM's Jeff Lewis Live. She recounted a story of Norman Lear following the popular Live in Front of a Studio Audience recreation on ABC in 2021.
He said, "Are you guys interested?" And we had all never really talked about it, but we all started to consider it.
While the stars of the series were on board with the idea, Cohn said one of them caused the deal to collapse.
One of the girls
was difficult. Didn't want to
more
do
than
it?
that, went behind our backs and tried to make a separate deal for a spinoff just for herself. And devastated the rest of us.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
The Facts of Life, a spin-off of another popular Norman Lear show, Different Strokes, ran on NBC from 1979 to 1988. Cohn, who's had a recent boost in her career on the Apple TV Plus series Palm Royale, remains tight-lipped about which cast member did this. But that doesn't stop fans from speculating, and Cohn did drop a small hint.
Go on my Instagram and see who
you follow and who you don't? Shane.
No.
Who she hangs with and who she doesn't?
There it is.
Okay. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Thursday, July 25th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.